So I know there are a lot of people out there who love this personal ring size. It's the perfect in between of an A5 and a pocket so that it's easy to carry, but it's not so small that it's cramped and you can't fit anything in there. And in my opinion, it really is the best size. It's the most common size. You can get a wide range of inserts as well as covers. So I can see why people really love this size. But the one caveat and the one issue that some people have, I think, is that it is quite narrow and we're not used to the narrowness of it. And I know there's been a growing popularity in the personal wide size because of that reason. But for me, I just think the personal size is so cute. Something about the dimensions is just really aesthetically pleasing to me. I don't know. Let me know down below if you guys think the same thing. And for the longest time, I had trouble being in a personal ring size as well. And I would gravitate towards, A6 and A5, something that's just a bit more square, until I came across these 3 tips that I really have helped me get used to this size. And now I can say it is my favorite size. And I've been in this size for quite a while now, among other planners. Of course, you guys know me. So let's start with tip number 1, which is to use fold out inserts. And I'm going to show you an example here. One of the main spreads and layouts that I find the hardest to fit in personal ring size is a monthly, because typically you'll find the monthlies, for example, a month on 1 page and even a month on 2 page, they have these little tiny squares for each day of the month. And I use monthlies for pre-planning, and I don't know about you, but I can barely fit, and I used to barely be able to fit one event, one task in those squares. So I think the fold out layout is the best of both worlds, because you can still keep it folded into this personal size, but you get the spacing of a much wider planner. And I think this is the most important for the monthly insert because of the nature of that type of layout. So this is just an example from my shop, but of course there's lots of shops who offer fold out inserts. So I'll list some of those below. So here's an example of it in a no grid, just a blank. And I think this is perfect for those of you guys who are starting out and want to try personal but need the bigger inserts. And you can get them not just for monthlies, of course. You can try this fold out type style for weeklies, for dailies, for all sorts of types of inserts. So tip number 2 is going to be another different type of style insert, and this time it's going to be the horizontal. So in the horizontal layout, you'll see here I have a week on 1 page, and what's great about the horizontal layout is that the rings are not in the way. I mean, if the layout is properly designed, which is that the titles should be up at the top so that the rings are always at the top. So for example, when I flip it, it's always at the top. And the reason why this is important is because now you can write freely without the rings ever being in the way. And sometimes when you're writing in your planner and the rings are here, it makes the planner feel smaller. Whereas if you had it like this with no rings in the way, it kind of makes the planner feel bigger because there's nothing in your way. Of course, another bonus tip, which I think most people know, and that's why I didn't officially include it, is that you could just put slits in your inserts and take them out and plan this way, of course. And then you could do it with whatever type of insert that you want. It doesn't have to be horizontal, right? But for those who like to keep their inserts in the rings while they're planning, this is a really great option. And for some reason, it just makes the planner feel a lot bigger. And now on to tip number 3, which is kind of the hardest to implement really, and this will really take time, but being the hardest, this is also the most versatile and the most long-lasting and the best long-term solution to be able to fully utilize the personal size and try out any insert that you want. And that is unfortunately just to learn to write smaller. So if you've seen my previous videos, you know that I'm a pretty messy writer, but over the past couple of years, as I started my shop and I do the tiny grids of my inserts, I've really tried to learn how to write smaller. I mean, heavily inspired by Philo Planner or Ali, as you guys might know on Instagram. And I think this has really made the biggest difference because being able to write smaller, you can just fit more in any kind of insert, right? So for example, this is that traditional month on 1 page that most planner shops have. I mean, this is like the most popular insert, I would say, in any size. And the only reason I've been able to make it work in the personal size is because I just write so much smaller now. And you'll see that, I mean, you can't fit a ton still, of course, but I can fit into there an event, an appointment, and, you know, actually 2 events. Previously, I could barely fit 1 thing in there. So if you want to be able to use this size permanently and to be able to utilize all of the different inserts out there, because this is the most common size. I mean, every shop will have inserts in personal size. The best way, unfortunately, is to learn to write smaller. And let me just give you guys an example. Like, this is my actual writing. Like, that is not neat. That's pretty big. That's my natural and most comfortable form of writing. But with practice, I have been able to really decrease the size of my writing, and it just comes with time. And one of the ways that I really found helpful to practice and, you know, get used to smaller handwriting is to use the tiny grids. I mean, it kind of came maybe hand in hand because these were from my shop and I was just printing them and practicing on them because, you know, it was my shop. I had to try out the inserts. And so naturally, I kind of just started writing smaller and smaller. But of course, you can do some sort of progression. Like, you can get inserts that start with the traditional 5mm line and then maybe graduate to something a little bit smaller, like in the Hobonichi Weeks. This is the dupe, but it's the same sizing. This grid is 4mm, so go from 5mm to 4mm, and then, you know, 3.5, 2.5. I have a grid bundle in my shop that I'll link down below, where it has like 4mm, I think, 3.5, and 2.5. And by doing this progression, you'll start to learn to write smaller and smaller. I do recommend some sort of grid or line or something that you can benchmark to, because if you have nothing to benchmark your writing towards, you're always going to write at the same size because you don't know if it's getting smaller or bigger, right? You're not writing towards any kind of goal because there's nothing to benchmark it to. Does that make sense? Anyway, so that is tip number 3, and I hope that some of these tips you'll find useful and that it'll help you get into this amazing size, because I really, really do love it, and I think it's a great size for everybody, and everybody can use it in some sort of form by implementing some of these tips. So let me know down below, guys, if you guys are going to try any of these tips. And don't forget to subscribe if you want to see more tips and trips coming up for both paper planning as well as digital planning. And with that, thank you so much for watching, and I'll see you guys next time. Bye!